Have you ever felt like a piece of your life was missing? Like there was an empty space in your heart that nothing could fill? Today, I'm going to share a story that will show you how one moment can change everything you thought you knew about yourself. Meet Sarah Chen, a 26-year-old software engineer from Seattle. For 2 decades, she lived with a question that haunted her every birthday, every Father's Day, every time she saw a dad holding his daughter's hand at the mall. Why wasn't I enough for him to stay? But what Sarah didn't know, what would shake the very foundation of her world, was that everything she believed about her abandonment was built on a lie. A lie that would take 20 years, 3 states, and a chance DNA test to unravel. Before I reveal what Sarah discovered in her journey to find the truth, make sure you're subscribed to Truespark. We bring you real stories of transformation that will inspire you to never give up on your dreams, no matter how impossible they seem. What Sarah found wasn't just answers. It was something that would challenge everything she thought she knew about forgiveness, family, and the power of truth. Stay with me, because what happens next will make you question whether some mistakes can ever truly be undone. Sarah grew up in a modest apartment in Portland with her mother, Helen. The story she knew was simple. Her father had walked out when she was 6 years old, leaving nothing but a hastily written note and a lifetime of questions. Helen never spoke much about him, and the few photos that existed were lost in a move when Sarah was 12. Every year on her birthday, Sarah would secretly hope for a card, a call, any sign that her father remembered she existed. But the mailbox remained empty, and the phone never rang. She learned to smile through father-daughter dances at school, to craft Mother's Day cards that served double duty, to answer the inevitable questions about her family with practiced ease. But beneath that well-adjusted exterior, a void grew. Sarah threw herself into her studies, determined to prove her worth through achievement. She graduated valedictorian, earned a full scholarship to MIT, and landed a prestigious job at a tech company. Yet success felt hollow without someone to share it with, someone who was supposed to have been there all along. The turning point came on a rainy Tuesday in March 2023. Sarah's mother had been diagnosed with stage 4 lung cancer, and while helping her organize medical documents, Sarah found a stack of old letters hidden in the back of a filing cabinet. Letters that would change everything. They were from a man named David Sullivan, dated 20 years ago. As Sarah read through them, her hands trembling, she realized they were desperate attempts to locate his daughter. Her. The return address was from Seattle, just 3 hours away from where she'd grown up. If you're finding this story touching your heart, remember to hit that like button and subscribe to Truespark. We believe in the power of real stories to change lives, and we're just getting to the most incredible part of Sarah's journey. Sarah embarks on a transformative journey to uncover the truth about her father, leading to reconciliation, forgiveness, and the healing of long-held wounds. The letters revealed a truth that seemed impossible. David Sullivan had never abandoned his family. He'd been told that Sarah and her mother had moved to Europe for Helen's job. The note Sarah had believed was his goodbye was forged. For 20 years, both father and daughter had lived with the pain of abandonment, neither knowing the other was searching. Sarah confronted her mother, who was now facing her own mortality. Helen broke down and confessed everything. She'd intercepted David's letters, convinced herself she was protecting Sarah from more hurt. With trembling fingers, Sarah typed David Sullivan's name into social media. There he was, still in Seattle, his profile picture showing a kind-faced man with her same deep-set eyes and slight dimple in his left cheek. But how do you message someone to say, "I think you're my father, and everything we've believed for 20 years is wrong"? Sarah spent 3 days drafting and deleting messages, each attempt feeling inadequate for the magnitude of the moment. How do you compress 20 years of loss into a few paragraphs? How do you reach across a divide that should never have existed? Finally, at 2 a.m. on a sleepless night, she sent a simple message. "Hi, my name is Sarah Chen. I think you might be my father. I just found your letters." Then she waited, watching the minutes tick by, her heart racing with each notification ping. David's response came within hours. "I've been waiting for this message for 20 years. Simple words that carried the weight of 2 decades of searching, hoping, and never giving up. The next few weeks were a blur of DNA tests, tearful phone calls, and finally, a meeting at a small coffee shop halfway between Seattle and Portland. David had arrived an hour early, pacing the sidewalk, clutching a small photo album he'd kept updated every year with school pictures he'd managed to find online. If you're invested in this story, make sure to subscribe to Truespark for more incredible journeys of discovery and redemption. Their first meeting was awkward, beautiful, and raw. They sat for hours, filling in 20 years of blanks. David had never stopped looking for her, had hired private investigators, had moved to Seattle hoping to somehow cross paths with his lost family. The first thing David did was apologize, not for leaving, but for not finding her sooner. "I should have tried harder," he said, his voice breaking. Sarah found herself in the strange position of comforting the father she'd just met, assuring him that he'd done everything he could. David pulled out a small box, worn with age. Inside were birthday cards, 20 of them, one for each year he'd missed. He'd written them faithfully, hoping that someday he'd be able to deliver them. Sarah learned she had grandparents who had kept her bedroom ready in their house for 20 years, hoping she'd return. She had aunts, uncles, cousins who had grown up hearing about their missing family member. Every Christmas, they'd set an extra place at the table, keeping hope alive that someday she'd fill it. The weight of all she'd missed hit Sarah hard. Family reunions, holiday gatherings, Sunday dinners, moments that could never be reclaimed. But David had a different perspective. "We can't get back what we lost," he said, "but we can make sure we don't lose another day." They began sharing photos and stories. Sarah showed him her graduation pictures. David shared videos of family gatherings where they'd always mentioned her name, always kept her memory alive. Each shared moment was like a small bridge being built across the years of separation. As weeks turned into months, Sarah and David began the delicate dance of building a relationship from scratch. They discovered shared interests, both loved puzzle games, could spend hours talking about astronomy, and had the same terrible habit of making puns at inappropriate moments. The process of getting to know each other was both joyful and challenging. They had to navigate the complex emotions of being family while essentially being strangers. Simple questions like, "What's your favorite food?" carried the weight of years of missed meals together. David introduced Sarah to his wife Maria, who had supported his search for his daughter all these years. Maria had helped maintain Sarah's room in their house, updating it as the years passed, hoping that someday it would be more than just a shrine to what was lost. The extended family welcomed Sarah with open arms, but the abundance of love was almost overwhelming. Cousins she'd never known existed wanted to share a lifetime of memories. Aunts wanted to make up for years of missed advice, and grandparents wanted to shower her with 2 decades worth of affection. Sarah found herself experiencing delayed grief for the relationship she could have had. There were moments when the weight of what had been stolen from her, from both of them, felt crushing. These moments often came at unexpected times, watching David interact with young nieces and nephews, seeing family photo albums with a conspicuous absence. But healing wasn't instant. There were awkward silences, moments of overwhelming grief for lost time, and the complex process of forgiving Helen, who was now in hospice care. David, showing a grace that amazed Sarah, insisted on helping with Helen's medical bills and visited her in the hospital. Helen's declining health added urgency to the reconciliation process. As she watched Sarah and David rebuild their relationship, she began to share more about the past, the fears and insecurities that had led to her decisions, the regret that had grown over the years, and the shame that had kept her from correcting her mistakes. David and Sarah established new traditions, creating memories to fill the void of those they'd missed. They began having weekly dinner dates, where they would share stories about their lives and discover new connections. Sometimes they'd sit in comfortable silence, both marveling at how familiar a stranger could feel. Through it all, Sarah documented their journey, keeping a journal of their reunification. She wanted to remember every detail, every emotion, every step of this unexpected chapter in her life. Maybe someday, she thought. This story could help someone else hold on to hope. The journey forced Sarah to confront difficult truths about love, forgiveness, and the stories we tell ourselves. She had built her life around being the abandoned daughter, using it as fuel for her drive to succeed. Now she had to reconstruct her identity, understanding that she had always been wanted, always been loved. Stay tuned to Truespark for more inspiring stories of hope and reconciliation. Healing came in unexpected ways. Sometimes it was in big moments, like the first time Sarah called David Dad. Other times it was in small gestures, a shared laugh, a familiar mannerism, the comfortable silence of belonging. Through their journey of reconnection, both Sarah and David discovered that love doesn't diminish with time or distance. Instead, it waits, patient and enduring, for the moment when hearts can finally find their way back to each other. Today, Sarah and David are making up for lost time. They have weekly dinner dates where they share stories, photos, and create new memories. Last Father's Day, Sarah finally had someone to give a card to, and David finally had someone to share his dad jokes with. Helen passed away peacefully last month, having made peace with both Sarah and David. Her last words to Sarah were, "I was wrong to keep you apart, but love can heal even the deepest wounds if we're brave enough to let it." This story isn't just about a reunion, it's about the power of truth, the possibility of second chances, and the healing that comes when we dare to rewrite the stories we've told ourselves. It's about understanding that it's never too late to find what we've lost, to forgive, to begin again. If Sarah's journey has touched your heart, please take a moment to share this video with someone who might need to hear this message of hope. Don't forget to subscribe to Truespark for more powerful stories of transformation and healing. Hit that like button if you believe in second chances, and leave a comment below sharing your thoughts on Sarah's journey. Remember, sometimes the greatest chapters of our lives begin right after we think the story is over.